The email that destroyed my future accidentally exposed something my university never wanted anyone to see. Part 4, it said, student has access to financial information through the appeal process. Review communication strategy. I couldn't speak, because suddenly I understood. My appeal wasn't rejected because of a scholarship decision. My appeal had triggered something else. They weren't reviewing whether I deserved the scholarship. They were reviewing how much I knew. And somehow, I had accidentally stumbled into a problem they had been trying to keep buried. But the next thing Daniel told me was the part that made me realize this was much bigger than my scholarship. Because he said, "You're not the first student they tried to silence." And then he handed me a list of names, students who had lost funding after asking questions. And my name was only the newest one. I stared at that list for a long time. Not because I didn't believe Daniel. Because I did. That was the problem. Before that moment, there was still a part of me hoping there was some innocent explanation. Maybe someone made a bad decision. Maybe an administrator panicked. Maybe the scholarship office was just horribly disorganized. But seeing my name next to other students changed everything. I wasn't an isolated mistake. I was part of a pattern. There were 12 names on that page. 12 students. Different programs. Different years. Different scholarships. But almost everyone had the same note attached. Requested financial clarification. I looked at Daniel. "How did you get this?" He closed the laptop. "I was part of the audit team. But this is confidential." "Yes. So why are you showing me?" He looked down at his hands. "Because I watched people ignore problems until they became bigger problems." That answer stuck with me. Because I realized something. Daniel wasn't trying to be a hero. He looked like someone who was tired of carrying something he shouldn't have had to carry. "What happened to the audit?" Maya asked. Daniel was quiet for a few seconds. Then he said, "It was changed." "What do you mean changed?" "Certain findings were removed before the final version was submitted." "By who?" "I don't know exactly." That answer frustrated me. "How can you not know?" "Because that's not how these things work." He explained that the audit went through several layers of review. People could suggest wording changes, clarifications, adjustments. Except some adjustments changed the meaning completely. A statement like, "Funds were transferred between restricted accounts without sufficient documentation" became, "Funds were temporarily reorganized as part of standard financial procedures." Same event, completely different impression. I felt angry, not because I understood everything. Honestly, a lot of the financial language went over my head. But I understood enough. The university wasn't hiding a suitcase of money somewhere. It was something more complicated. Numbers, reports, documents, things most students would never look at. And that was exactly why it worked. Nobody was paying attention. Until now. The next few weeks became the most stressful period of my life. I still had classes, still had assignments, still had exams, but every free moment was spent researching. I started keeping everything organized. A folder on my computer, a backup drive, printed copies, not because I thought I was in some movie, because I had learned something important. People can argue with opinions. They can't argue with documents. Maya introduced me to other students who had similar experiences. One of them was a graduate student named Olivia. She had lost a research scholarship after questioning why her department's student funding was reduced while administrative spending increased. Another was Marcus, a senior who had appealed a scholarship decision and received the exact same vague response I did. Updated institutional priorities. When Marcus heard that, he laughed. Not because it was funny, because he had heard the phrase before. They really used the same script for everyone. That bothered me. It wasn't just that students were losing money. It was that everyone was being given the same meaningless explanation. We started building a timeline. The first major discovery was that scholarship reductions happened shortly after certain internal discussions. The second was that several affected students had requested financial information beforehand. The third was that the university's public statements didn't match some of its internal documents. But we needed more. A pattern wasn't enough. We needed evidence that someone knowingly misrepresented something. That's when Maya found an old board meeting recording. The university uploaded recordings of board meetings online. Most students never watched them. They were hours long. Mostly budget discussions. Mostly boring. But Maya had been searching for specific names. Around the 3-hour mark, we found something. A board member asked, "Can you confirm that student support funds have not been affected by the restructuring?" An administrator responded, "Yes. Student support remains a priority." We looked at each other. Because we knew that wasn't the whole story. The university had cut scholarships. They had cut grants. They had reduced student programs. Yet publicly, they were saying student support remained protected. That was the first time I thought, maybe this wasn't just poor management. Maybe they were deliberately misleading people. But then something happened that reminded me how powerful the university was. I got called into a meeting. Not by financial aid. By the dean of students. The email was polite. Almost too polite. "Please attend a meeting regarding concerns about recent communications." Concerns about recent communications. That was a strange way to say, "We know you're asking questions." I went anyway. I brought no documents. No laptop. Nothing. Just myself. Part 5 is posted.